All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Morris Brandon. It's GOTeam meeting for October, where we will follow this agenda as it is posted, been emailed, and publicly noticed. Today's meeting is a meeting of the GOTeam, and we do not have public comment today. So only members of the team may participate in the discussion, and any members of the public present are here to quietly observe. And for members of the GOTeam, please always identify yourself when you speak. And I'm pleased to call our meeting to order at 3:31 p.m. for the Morris Brandon October GOTeam. First order of business is to call roll. Kimberly, the secretary, will now take the roll.
Okay. I'll just call out people's names. Jay.
Present.
Ashley Scott.
Here.
Ashley Mathis. Miss Jordan.
Here. Present.
Let's see here. Anna. Trying to think of my list.
I'm present.
Thank you. Miss Hannah.
Moses is here. I see her on.
I see her.
Miss Hannah.
And Chris is not here. I knew that before. And then I feel like I'm missing someone. Sorry.
Oh, Tiffany.
Tiffany, yes.
Is
Right.
she here?
Is she here?
I have an iPhone guest. I don't know.
Okay, I'll just put her as question mark until later.
That's fine. Do we have?
She was new. Jay, was she on the invite? Because she's our new GOTeam member. I can text her real quick.
I'd love to say yes, but because I set those invites out at the beginning of the year, that makes sense. But it is posted on. Maybe just have her jump on, and then Ashley, worst case scenario, if she can't, we still have a quorum, right? And I can meet with her individually, review this, and just make sure she's on next time. That was probably an oversight by me.
Oh, and then Miss Minock. Sorry, I missed you, Miss Minock. Are you on here?
I don't see Lena either.
Okay.
Do we have a quorum though?
I don't know if we have a quorum then.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
We need 6.
6.
We need 5. Right?
We have 7.
Yeah, we have a
Okay,
quorum.
we're good. Okay.
And yeah, Tiffany wasn't on the invite, Jay.
All right.
I'll text her and see if she can jump on real quick.
I just text her. I'll send her the link too, just in case she can't.
Okay, thanks, Ina.
Yeah, and tell her sorry, no pressure, because that was my fault. I forgot that we voted her in the last meeting and not the one of the original before I set all the invites. So that was my fault. I'll make sure that I add her in, but don't make it feel like she has to drop everything to try and jump on the GOTeam meeting right now, unless she can.
Okay, so looks like we do have a quorum, yes.
And Pam, Miss Minock is joining in a few minutes. She's trying to log in.
Okay, cool. So our first order of business is to approve the agenda right here. This was provided to you. Copies are here. Are there any changes to this agenda? Anyone got anything to add? We're good.
There was a I'm giving an update on an admin change that's not on here that we wanted to speak about at the very end as well.
Okay.
I don't see
I
it on
kind of
there.
figured that was principal's update.
That's
Is that
fine.
part of
Okay.
okay.
If for the essence of our community, if they would like to hear more about it, we may just want to put 2 and then put a new administrator so we have it documented.
Okay. Kim,
So
do you
under
mind?
principals report, we'll have security grant and then just administration update or something like that. So we know that we talked about it.
Perfect. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda with that update?
I'll make a motion to approve with the update.
Thanks,
This is Ashley Mathis. Yes.
Second.
Thank you, Miss Jordan. All opposed, please say aye. I mean, sorry. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any nays? Any abstentions? Okay, so agenda is approved. Now we're going to move on to approving our previous minutes. So everyone should have reviewed and seen the minutes from our last meeting. They've been provided. Are there any corrections? Anyone had anything we needed to update? I didn't see anything, so I think we're good. If there are no corrections, can I have a motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes?
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Moses. A second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Okay. All right, so our first discussion item, I'm going to kick it off over to Jay. Milestones.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for jumping on, everybody. Just a friendly reminder, our meetings do start at 3:30. I did that because honestly, I had wanted our teachers to make it home, but I'm looking on here and I see Jordan in her classroom and Moses in her room and Benok still in her room. If we want to move these up to 3 o'clock to get it a little bit sooner, we can, but I also want to be cognizant of our parents. So it does put me a little later at school. You know, it puts our teachers a little later. I wanted to do 3:30 to try and get them home, but it doesn't look like they're getting home. So if we need to talk offline before the next meeting, maybe I'll do a vote. If we want to push it to 3 o'clock, we can. But everybody would have to just approve that. Okay. We had a great day today, Brandon. As always, every day's a great day. Sat in a room with Miss Moses all day, and we talked about data. Well, not all day, but a little bit with her and Miss Little and our teachers. Because Thursday we talk about our kids in small groups at main campus, and it was a good day. Let's talk a little bit about our principals report. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna talk about a little bit about our milestone data, how that aligns to our MAP data currently. We're gonna talk about our math data because that is new, even though I did present it at our principal update last week. Talk about our CIP, talk about our strategic plan, and we're gonna give a couple updates at the end. Full caveat, this is not the most fun GOTeam meeting. It's going to be the data graphs. We're going to talk about some achievement again. Just chime in or just listen and take notes. We don't have to dwell too much on all of this again because we have spoken about it. But the idea is this is going to lead us into our next GOTeam meeting where we're going to relook at our continuous improvement plan. We're going to reset our goals and our targets. And we're going to make sure that everything is set for budget season. Went to the principals meeting yesterday. A lot of budget talk. $100 million deficit. We looked at 2 different schools and it was great. This is a good little, just a quick caveat. We looked at the one school that has the art and the extracurriculars and the music and the orchestra and the band teacher and class sizes of 26. And we looked at the one school that has no orchestra or band or French or media, and they have class sizes of 18. And it's about how you manage and how you look. And they walked us through scenarios about prioritizing what you really want to prioritize. It's important, GOTeam, that if we look through our data, but also our strategic plan, that we understand where we need our money to go, because I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know if we're going to get allotments for things that we've gotten in the past, things like nurses and media specialists, counselors, social workers. You know, those are all things that they've helped us in dual campus supplements. And again, it helps that we're growing, but at the same time, if it's not directly aligned to a strategic priority, something that we feel is valuable, you know, it may have to go, right? So just something to think about when we're approaching $100 million budget deficit that we've never had before in the past, and opening up our budget in January, where it's probably going to be in the red, and it's probably going to be in the red by a couple $100,000, if I had to guess. And that's when we're growing in population as well. So we just kind of have to figure it out, play it by ear. And just so you know, the other option is that is basically the budget department reduces the SSF formula altogether. So instead of $5,544 per kid, we start getting $4,544 per kid. You multiply that times 922, you know, it's a lot of money we lose. Just something to think about. And it's my goal to make sure that everything is student aligned, everything is going directly back to our kids, and everything is aligned to our instructional needs. And I think we're in a really good place with that. I think we've done a lot of that in the past, but this is setting us up for budget season. I just want everybody to be prepared and ready for that because we're going to have public comment during that time as well. All right, let's get started. Oh,
Hey, Jay, sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
This might go off on a tangent, but
I just went off on a tangent, so bring it on. Let's go. Let's do tangent.
Well, we were looking at, Ashley and I were looking at the multi-year APS budget yesterday. And I mean, Brandon, they had like per school, like total dollars, but then per
$1,000 per
student
student. We're
spending.
less than most of the schools, aren't we?
Yes. So I just wanted to shout out to Brandon because even though obviously the dollar amount looks big when you first look at it, if you look at it on a per student basis, we are giving our students a great experience with the budget in mind. So I just wanted to congratulate to you and all the teachers and staff because I think we're doing a really good job. And I do think that APS has some hard conversations ahead of them. There are 17 schools that have less than 300 students.
And their per pupil was around $30,000 to $32,000 per
which
student.
is almost double ours.
Well, ours is 12,000, so it's over that. We're paying about $12,500 per student. There's schools in APS that have 300 kids that are paying $30,000 to $35,000 per student. And that's kind of the issue, right? So I'm hoping that that the decisions that are made have minimal impact on our community and our school because we budget well and we've got the numbers and we've got our and that's where we'll go from there. So just positive
But
thoughts.
just great job. I just want to say we were looking at it. It was Morris Brandon. I hope parents realize what a great experience Morris Brandon is for our kids.
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. The three biggest schools, Brandon, Sutton, and North Atlanta, all have the lowest per pupil budget.
And Mm-hmm.
All right. Some of these slides are pre-populated, so I'm going to let you read them. This is where we are. We created a strategic plan, a 5-year strategic plan, and we're going to take a look at what those goals were, and we're going to adjust those goals in our next meeting. So we're going to take a look at those today. We're going to look at our priorities and a little bit about our CIP. Our CIP is our continuous improvement plan that has always lived very separate from our strategic plan that's more public. And I want you guys to help me make it more fluid. And we're going to use the same goals for both. And that's something that I want to do. We'll talk about that later. Right now, this is where we are. We're going to utilize data to review and possibly update our strategic priorities. And that's going to happen before break. So we're starting that now. We'll do it again in November. And then I don't know if we have a meeting in December, but we will definitely work on some of that in November. Also, welcome to Lena jumped on and Tiffany jumped on. Tiffany, I'm going to get you on these invites. That was my fault. I'm so sorry about that. This is what we're going to talk about today. Okay. I want to take a look at our current strategic plan. This is something that I built out with GOTeam, and we've updated it each year. It's a 5-year plan, and our goals for last year were right here. We don't have to spend a ton of time on this because this was created at the very beginning of last year, and this was updated. So this is going to need to be updated for next year. I want you to pay careful attention to these goals up here, and did we meet these goals? And I want you to notice who they targeted, because in about 4 or 5 slides, we're going to just do a quick shout out and a quick like a note catcher, or just share out what your thoughts are. If you have a pencil, if you want to write down a little something, please do, but not mandatory. And I promise I'm not calling on anybody to answer any questions. So just take a look. These are all of our 11 school priorities. They align to the school strategies on the right, or vice versa. The strategies align to the priorities. And this is exactly what's going to fuel our budget in a couple months. The idea was to increase our lowest performing subgroup, our African-American students, 3% gain. See how they did, right? If you have to stop me about anything, ask questions, please. We're just kind of looking and probing, and we can ask questions in a couple slides too. I wanted to show you where we were in our EOG. We wanted to increase our African-American students by 3% from 40 to 43% in ELA. Here's ELA right here. Here's our African-American students. Where did they finish last year? Nearly 47.5% proficient. That's nearly a 9% gain. We had wanted,
That's
what do we
awesome.
want? 3%.
3.
Awesome.
Tripled it.
We had a small gain the year before, about 4%. Or take 5%. The 9% gain was awesome. For math, we wanted to go 3% from 23 to 26%. We went from 29, and I'll tell you why that's a little different in a second. 42%. That's all a 13% gain for African-American students. These are only 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, by the way. But you will see this trend K5, which is great. Okay.
I have a question,
Yeah,
Jay. 2023, the new math standards came into play 2023. Is that right?
2024, technically. So the
Okay, so
score
it's
you're
this
seeing under
year.
2024, 2024
Okay.
was technically last year. So 2025 is this year. So last
Okay, so
year,
this is the second year.
2024, yep, would be the second year of the math. So last year's 2024, all this orange on the high, that's the new math standards.
So that's like a huge increase with, I mean, that was a lot of work for all of you guys last year, toggling between Envision and the Godot and
I'm seeing our
look at
teachers shake their heads on there. Yes, you are right on that. And I want you to notice the trends that we saw with high growth, really high achievement, increase in achievement, and really all of our subgroups, with the exception of our multiracial students. And that's our proficient. Multiracial students are the ones that obviously fall under more than one race. And we really have to know who those kids are, because there was 15 of them, and you have to have at least 15 to have a subgroup. So we have a list of those students now. And the same thing for math. You can look at the increases in math. Even our highest performing students, our white students, grew 5%, 3%. Really, really good data. Really good data here. So I just wanted to show this to you and show you that when we come back to this slide next time we meet, we're going to redo these goals. Okay.
Jay, can you remind me the breakout of like percentage wise of our demographics?
Yes, I'll tell you right now. 58% of our school is white, and 25% of our school is Black. And 22% of our school last year was actually free reduced lunch. I was surprised to see that. And I know that off the top of my head, and I will tell you because our content mastery score for CCRPI just came out. It's embargoed, so I can't share it with you. But what I can tell you is it's 3 points higher than it was last year, and we're really, really close to 100. I'll just leave it at that. And that's for content mastery. That's like math, reading, and science. Our CCRPI is going to go up, right? We went from a 6 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10. Can we get to a 9 out of 10 this year? That's the goal. But those scores are starting to come out. They're still embargoed, but I'll speak to those. Remember, we have content mastery, then progress, then closing the gaps is our subgroup, and then readiness, and that's a few other things. And we'll talk all about CCRPI when I'm allowed to. But it's
So
all
did we also have goals for since Black and Hispanic are almost the same, did we also have goals for them too?
great question. We did not. We picked our lowest subgroup, and the idea was to bring our lowest students up to bring the whole school up. I have a different viewpoint on that for going forward, but take a note, Kim. And if we feel like we want to set targets for each of our individuals, we can, or we can set.
No, I'm just curious because, obviously the Black community did really great, but then we saw
I know.
not as much in the Hispanic on the ELA, but
yeah, that's true. Yep, that's true. A little small growth. The funny thing is when you look at our access scores, those are the students that are non-English speakers, and this is factored into CCRPI. They really do great. They move so many bands and got so many CCRPI points. So the proficiency wasn't necessarily changing, and it may not even been the same kids. I can't just say just because they're Hispanic, they're in ESOL. But at the same time, you kind of look at that. So we know that somebody's growing. So we have to figure out maybe these are like Hispanic students that are in DLI that are not receiving ESOL services and maybe just aren't growing because their proficiency is already pretty high at 63%. If we're talking about our ESOL students, the proficiency would be a lot lower. But that's a good something to lift, Kim. I want to keep going because I have a lot of slides. I want to talk about our continuous improvement plan. This is a fluid document that's created every year, and it's done by our leadership team. So me, Hopper, Tamika, Nails, DeCarlo, Lamb, we all sit down and we work on this all summer. We basically take all the milestone data. And one thing I just wanted to tell you is this goal right here, 23%, is different than we wanted to go from 23 to 26, but we were actually at 29. The reason why that changed 6%, I just want you to know, as time goes on, the state will end up removing or adding milestone scores to us. You have to look at what's called FAY students, FAY. Those are the ones that were there for a full academic year. And if a child came to us after a certain date, and it really is like around Thanksgiving, to be honest, then their milestone scores won't count for us. They're going to go back to the school they were at. So while we test and we get the initial report and they're on there, ultimately they get pulled out. But vice versa, if we have kids that have been with us and they leave and they go test somewhere else, those scores will also tie back to us. So it shifts a little bit as you kind of go through. Hope 6% is kind of a bigger increase than I had anticipated, but I'll take it because it went up instead of down. So anyways, continuous improvement plan, we just kind of outline, we do a data protocol, we outline some of the strengths and some of the grows. We don't call it weaknesses, right? We had good increase. We had 10% increase in ELA for African-American students. We decreased our extremely elevated students on BAS-BEST, which we're not giving anymore now, but we wanted to talk about that from last year. We had a great proficiency increase for students with disabilities. We didn't talk about them today, but they also did very well. Increase 4.1% increase in ELA overall to 70%. And then just some of the grows, we talked about the multiracial students. Proficiency gap between our students is still there, right? And then also our 5th grade students scoring beginner increased across all content areas. We'll look at that in just a second. Because of that, we lift some overarching needs. And we did this at the very beginning of the summer and kind of worked through that we needed it for literacy. We needed to really begin to monitor a framework, foundational skill. We do a really good job of that at K2, right? Oral fluency, oral reading, vocabulary, comprehension, just making sure that our kids know how to read. But we don't do a ton of that at Maine because we just want them reading at Maine. But we realize that in 3rd grade, we have to do a little more of that. And our 3rd grade teachers are doing that, and even 4th and 5th as well. Numeracy, you're going to see is a little blank because we didn't get the math scores back until about 2 weeks ago. So I never did the statement I'll show you, but we need to continue to build out the 5E framework. And that's that new Georgia Department of Education model. Remember, when we built this, we didn't have math. So that's why I left it out. We didn't know our math data yet. So we really stuck with a lot of the old strategies, which seemed to work. For whole child intervention, as a school, we're just looking to reduce our behavior referral. Ignore the numeracy in the middle. I didn't have math when I got this, but I wanted you to see that it is empty and we're going to have that filled in. But we do just called a 5Y protocol. Why is there this 47.4% gap between African-American and our white students? Like why do we think that is, right? Well, why? Well, they grow at different rates. Well, why is that? Because your subgroup students are lacking some foundational literacy skills, or they're not receiving the foundational support that's consistent across K-5. Many of these students are not with us in kindergarten, and they come in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or even 5th grade. Why? Because during data meetings, we didn't consistently track the early literacy data. Why? Because we didn't have a systematic approach to tracking our lowest 25%. Why? Because our instructional team hadn't identified a consistent way to progress monitor early literacy. This is a lot of the work they're doing at K2. We're doing a lot of this at 3-5. It takes a lot of work, but this is something that we have to map out for our boss and our APS to show them that we're moving towards our continuous improvement plan, our strategic plan goals. 5Y protocols are hard, and everything has to be within your locus of control. The hardest time doing this was right after the pandemic. Well, why are your kids at 40% proficient? Well, they've been on the computer for 2 years. Well, no, you can't really say that. My boss would say it needs to be in your locus of control. So as much as I'd want to say we have 25 new 4th graders this year, I can't say that. We have to talk about tracking their data and just being a little bit more strategic with it. On the right side, I won't get into the intervention one as much, but it talks a little bit about what we're going to do to track behavior and how we're going to give some intervention supports for behavior. And we've done a great job. The referrals have completely dropped this year, and we wanted to. They haven't been a big issue in the past, but since we're not giving the BAS-BEST anymore, we wanted to tie it to discipline. Any questions around this? There's not a ton you have to do with this. I just wanted to show you a little bit around this because we're going to talk about what our overarching needs are right here. Okay. And this is it. Implementation and monitoring of a consistent framework with an emphasis on foundational skills. That's it. We're going to move the needle. We're going to continue to move the needle when we bring our lowest student up. Math, same thing. Let's just continue doing the same thing we did last year. Implementation, supporting, and monitoring that new 5E framework. 5E is the way we're rolling out math. Engage, explore. Moses, what's next? She knows. I can't always remember the 5Es, but they're in there, and we have to continue to build them out in math. And that's something that we just left on there. Then WCI, action plans to help students referral. Here's our SMART goals. And this is them. We talked about it. We're going from 75 to 80% literacy. We're going from about 74.6 to 80%. Why not go 5.4% in math? All right. We have to remember these. These are our goals, and these are the goals that I suggest, with your approval, we put on our strategic plan. For now, when we lift our entire school by 5%, it's not just going to be our white kids that grow 5%. That's not going to happen. It's going to be our entire school. we're bringing everybody up. Then we don't have to focus on individual subgroups on the big picture. We're going to drill down to them. But if our school moved to 80% proficiency next year with math and reading, well, number one, I'd win the Principal of the Year award. That'd be a 10% increase in proficiency over 2 years for a school like Brandon. I probably might go to the Department of Education in DC and tell you everybody what I did. That was so great. If we actually get to 80%, that'd be the highest proficiency that we've had at Brandon since before the pandemic and before I got here. And we're only 5% away. And I want you to think about how we've changed with our landscape of Brandon. That we're now 58% white, 25% black, 22% free reduced lunch. But we can still get back to where we were before the pandemic when those numbers were much different. I have a link here to access the CIP. If anybody ever wants me to click on it, it's going to give me like a better readable version of that. I see a couple of notes. Thank you for those that were answering it. And I'm going to stop just for a second and just take any quick questions. Do we have any? Because now what I want to do is make sure you know where we are right now, because the data doesn't look like this right now. We are not at 75% proficient. That's just not, you just don't start the year that way. Okay, so let's talk about where we are now and where we started the year.
Jay, I just have a comment.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say I'm glad to see, if you can go back to the previous slide, that whole child and intervention is equal weight as the literacy and numeracy,
Yeah.
because it is a direct correlation between behavioral issues and academic achievement. So I'm glad to see that you do have, equal weight between the three here.
Right. That's a good call out. And I know Tiffany understands that. Because WCI is a team that we meet with every week. Every Monday morning at 8:15 in the morning, Tamika Small leads our WCI meeting where we talk about students with attendance, behavior, or any other concerns. And we have a list of the students. We track them each week. And this is exactly what we do. So anytime you see the word WCI, it's whole child intervention. And this is what we do. We look at their attendance, map, referral forms. Teachers can refer them. A protocol to walking through there. We have a tracker to track the kids. This is all stuff that we do, and it's really is just as important as math and reading. Because if they're not there emotionally where they need to be, many of these kids cross over all three of these categories, right? All right, let's see where we are right now.
Right.
Okay, the top of my screen's cut off. So give me 1 second. So I want to make sure I can read. All right, so we're going to talk for a second around our 3 through 5 math results. I just want to show you these. They wanted me to talk about that because they really had just come out. I think the GOTeam is the first time we've seen it. So the last time we met, I showed you all that great literacy data, and then I had a slide that was like, but wait for math. It's coming. It's going to be just as, is it going to be just as good? Well, it was just as good. You look at the proficiency from 22 to 23 to 24. Okay. Take a look at reducing beginning learners, increasing distinguished learners. We went from 69% to 74%. Great gains right here. Okay. See that green getting bigger, bigger, bigger? Do you remember how stressful math was last year? I just want to make sure everybody knows that. Ashley remembers, Kim remembers. Remember sitting in these meetings and feeling sorry for the teachers?
Yes.
This is the work right here.
I still feel sorry for them.
Right. I do too sometimes, I'm not gonna lie. I want to show you the growth. Because I always said this, it's easy to be high achieving when you're Brandon, because we could come in the next day and not do one thing, and we're gonna have 60% of our kids on grade level. I don't want 60 though. We need 80 at. So we got to work hard to get those other 20%. But can you still grow all your kids? This is 1, 2, 3, 4. We are the 5th school in the district out of 72 schools with the highest growth. To be completely honest with you, I'm not sure how the school before us got ahead of us, because we have same percentage of people that outgrew their growth targets, and then we even have a higher that met. So I'm not sure why we're not 5th, whatever. We're this number. I blocked out all the other schools, but as you can see, this bar could keep going. Schools
Jay,
that
that's
are
all of APS?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. Actually, there's more. So if I were to keep scrolling, all of APS, and just a spoiler, you won't necessarily see the like schools. We know our like schools, the ones that we compare ourselves to, on that list at the very top like that. All great data points. Okay. All right. This slide is going to be our 3rd through 5th math results. We talked about reading, so I just want to show you once again. I put the words at the top, so I got to unshare and share again. So let's just take a look really quickly. All right, here's our 3-year trends for math, 22, 23, 24 for subgroups, okay? Before we looked at overall achievement. Here's our subgroup growth for math. We see our dip in multiracial. Everybody else grew. I just have this picture on here. I talked about it in the parent input. These are 2 new teachers to Brandon, 2nd year special ed, right out of college. 1st year at Morris Brandon, new co-taught team that we put together. They are doing the work. They are moving the needle with these 4th grade students. Mr. Harrelson and Miss Davis, awesome, 2 awesome teachers. This is one of our data meetings where we met on a Thursday and we talked about their reading centers and small group students, and they have them listed out here, and they have a structured plan for each one of those kids. Let's take a look at ELA. We want to see the steps, right? The multiracial we know is a focus. Something to think about. 5% gain for our white students and 9% for African American students. Awesome. All right, so where are we right now? Because we are not at 75%. Let's talk about it. Take some notes if you need to. Let me reshare. All right, right here, the top screen you're going to see is all students from grades 2nd through 5th. They take MAP growth. I put both groups on here because this is just 3 through 5, and I add 2nd in here because 2nd usually performs a lot lower because this is the first time they're taking MAP reading on their own. They actually have to read the assessment. So I like to do 2 graphs so you can see if it differentiates a little bit. But if you look, it really is not differentiating that much. So down here is all of our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students for reading. Where do we see proficiency-wise? Where are we? Proficient and distinguished combined is at 70%. 70%. We finished the year at 75%. We want to get to 80%. Math has a very, very high correlation to the Georgia milestones. Is there a way that we can move this to 10% proficiency by the end of the year? That's the goal. That's going to tell us where we are with milestones. How does it compare?
Jay, that's common after the summer, right? For it to dip a little bit.
But take a look. This is the fall window for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
We were at 71% 2 years ago. We were at 73%, 2% last year, 2 years ago, and then we're at 70%. What are we noticing the trend right here? Our distinguished learners are dropping off. Okay, we're getting back.
And Jay, these aren't necessarily the same kids either, though, right? I mean, this is fall.
You're losing your 5th graders, you're gaining your ones each year. This one, so in this 407, they were 3rd graders right here, right?
Yeah.
This 398, you know, they were 3rd graders here, are now here. So it just rotates around. So we lost our 5th graders here, we gained our 3rd graders here. And you can see the numbers are pretty similar though, 3 through 5. They haven't fluctuated too much, but the PC they have. All right, this is our fall math results. Let's take a look. We want to get to 80%. All right, this was 2nd through 5th. Where are they at? 62%. I said, well, hold on a second. That's 2nd grade. Let's add 3 through 5 in. Where's 3 through 5 in? 64%. We got a long way to go. We got some work to do, right? But how far were we off from last year? Right? Not that far off. We actually had more distinguished learners. How far were we off from 2 years ago? When we had the same number of proficient learners, we didn't have the same number of distinguished. Good news is we have less beginning learners, right? Just something to think about. This is our target for the year. We have to get from 64% to 80% proficiency in math right now. 16% growth. I wanted to remind you all what our new goals are that are on here. I just said them again. We made it to 75%. We did it. We made it to 74.6. I'll round up to 75. We did it. We got to get to 80. Okay. And now we know where we are. We're at 70 and we're at 64. Okay. Showing our students because I love showing them. It's just a second to just, we're not going to do a note catcher, or we don't have to, just take a second. If you want to raise your hand, I can call on you to make it easier, or just come off of mute. Tell me, what are you noticing? What are you wondering? We'll start with those first 2 questions.
So I'll start. I was wondering if we have had a chance to get underneath like why the multiracial dropped off. Was my first wondering, and the second one, I think I know the answer, but wanting to confirm, does the data for milestones not show Asian because of the number of students is too small? Okay.
You are learning. I love it, Ashley. So Ashley said her notice was, one of them is multiracial. They dropped. Well, they didn't grow as they dropped. They're the only subgroup that dropped. And we don't think of multiracial students as a subgroup, but we know we had 15 of them. We need to know who those kids are, and will we still have a subgroup of 15? Because you have to have 15 students in third, fourth, and fifth to count as a subgroup. So you answered your next question. How come we don't see Asian? Because we didn't have 15 Asian students. Y'all know HIPAA, right? For doctors, the same exact rules are for education. It's called FERPA. And if you have less than 15, you cannot discuss a child. You can't, because then you'll be able to drill down on who that kid is. Any other noticings or wondering? So wondering might be, who are our subgroups this year? How about that? Do we have 15 Asians? Maybe we can check. Anything else that stands out to you? You guys did a pretty good job of understanding it, and I think I did a good job of explaining it. So based on our school's trend from MAP assessments and end of year tests, which students, subgroups, and grade levels showed the most significant gaps or unexpected trends? Anybody remember? MAP. This was math. This was reading. You probably know which subgroups and grade levels showed the most significant gaps. Well, if you look back here, we know this gap was here, right here, 87.4%. The biggest gap right now still continues to be our African American and our white students. Okay. And then who had the most unexpected trend though? African American students, right? They grew the highest in reading and math. But even growing the highest in reading the math still has a 40%, 35%, whatever that number was, gap. Okay. We're closing that gap. We're closing it faster than the rest of the state is and the rest of the city is, but we still got that. I mean, it's still large. It's evident, right? Based on our school's trend data from MAP assessments, we just looked at that. We're at 70 for ELA, 64 for math. Milestones, we know where we were, 75, 75. And other indicators, are there specific trends that require more focused attention right now? If you had to think of something that should be focused on right now, and hopefully as a school, we are focusing on it, but I want to hear from GOTeam. What do you think that would be? I like to give adequate weight, so I like to wait and just have the quiet. Again, was that Ashley?
I think we need to focus on our math, right? That's
Right.
where we
Where did we
had
come in
the,
with math? Came in low, didn't we? We got to continue to
Yeah.
put that second year math out. We are still not like ready to coast with math and say that everybody's got
Yeah.
strategies.
Mhm.
We've hit some snags with math this year. APS pulled back on Envisions. They took them back. They got rid of
Yeah, I
our
was wondering about that. So we're not using it at all?
no. Because we have an incredible foundation, we have repurchased the online program to support our DLI teachers, and we still have the books to act as anchors for our text. But we're not trying to change what we've been doing. It worked last year. Let's keep it moving. For the district, yes, they want us to stick pretty much just with the Godot, Georgia Department of Ed units, and no more supplements.
Wow. But they're not giving a curriculum.
Mm-mm. They actually tried to. They actually, I know I'm being recorded here, so they cut our curriculum, but they didn't get all of it. If you know what I mean. We'll leave it at that.
Is that like unusual, Jay? Like, shouldn't you have a curriculum for math?
No, not necessarily, because the Georgia Department of Education is the curriculum. I mean, it is. They have mapped out every standard that then they test us. So really, it's not a terrible idea to lean 100% on the Georgia Department of Education. But the issue with that is it requires a lot of digging, a lot of printing, a lot of preparation. Like you
got to write your own curriculum.
You can't just say like, turn to page 40 now and let's practice, like you got to have it all ready. You have to have a book that aligns to the work. Yeah. So we're teaching Department of Ed work via worksheets and PowerPoints that we've put together, but students can now still open up a textbook, hold a pencil and work on those standards if they need to, or whatever other papers that teachers want to use.
And I think as a parent, it's hard because like they don't have something to refer to, right? So like, and again, I'm not I wasn't like in love with Eureka, but on Eureka, I could go online and understand what they were saying in English and in Spanish and be like, okay, here are 3 examples that you did in class. Let me help you understand how to get to it. So if there's any,
Yeah, that's a
back with
great,
the teachers, because I feel like parents are not able to support the students as much at home just from the limitations. So as teachers, feel free to tell parents what we can do to help you more.
And this would be a good topic to plug the cluster listening session with Dr. Johnson, November 7th. Like, I'm planning on getting up and asking like what APS's plan is, because it just seems to me, just like what Kim said, kind of crazy. Like, they need to have like a curriculum writing team or something, like
I
Dr.
agree.
Johnson, what's the plan here?
I
I will
agree.
say, Kim, in response, I think that's good feedback for us to hear from parents, because there are Envisions does have some like parent tools that can be sent home that have links and videos. And I think last year we were just so overwhelmed with trying to get the core, like the class stuff, that it was another thing to send home. But that's something that like we as a school, I think, can bridge that gap by maybe as like teacher teams sending home some of those things like we do with our newsletters. But I do think it's going to be interesting to see as a district what they do, because like Godot is not in a by any means a curriculum, and it's very like here's an activity, but it's not teaching the skill.
Right,
And that was the
concept.
feedback we gave all the way through, which we're so thankful that like Foundations paid for admissions, because that was really what we leaned on to have some of those resources, as well as pulling in our own stuff, obviously. But yeah, that's definitely feedback to give, because yeah, it just is.
Yeah.
It's not
Everyone come to the
not to
meeting.
get them to
Yes,
proficiency.
come to the meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think 5% a really good but hard goal for us to reach, but I don't want the teachers to feel like it's only on their shoulders. You should lean on the parents. Like,
yeah.
kids
That's
are
all
at
good
home.
feedback. Georgia Department of Ed also has some parent resources as well, to let them know, but I think Hannah was.
Oh, that website's so hard to understand.
It is.
It is.
Welcome.
It's
I
not
have tried.
intuitive.
I
Mm-mm.
have tried. Like,
Me too.
and as you get to like middle school later, like it's in Chinese, I swear.
I know. Well, the good news is,
I
like I've
agree,
always said,
Kim.
our teachers are phenomenal, and the work that they did last year with fighting through all this and making it work, losing the resource at the beginning of the year, quickly turning around the foundation, being able to refund it, getting the online platform back, trying to keep it moving. These are all examples of like things that Morris Brandon do and do well. Because sometimes you just have to kind of do what's best for your kids and for your school and to make it work. And that's always what we do and for our community. And I think we're in a good place, but we need to continue to think about where we want to go as we build out our strategic plan. So these little math things that you're talking about, curriculum updates, parent communications, little things like that, just begin to take note. We're at
And
4:14, so I
could
want to
you-
keep going. Go ahead,
Could
Lena.
you go back to the reading too? Because like we do have new standards coming, and with that, maybe new curriculum or not, like we're not really sure yet. So like I want to see what the numbers were that we're looking at and reading too.
It's some ELA stuff on here. We've done some work around those new standards, Lena. We know what they are, but we're going to want to make sure. Now, I'm going to tell you, don't know anything about the literacy updates or the curriculum yet. We're going to stick with what we're doing as we write this. Okay. And we're going to stick with what we're doing. We're going to plan on keeping our curriculum until somebody tells me otherwise. Except for third, maybe. We'll talk about third. We know that, Lena. All right. Let me just keep going, guys, because I do kind of need to get at 4:30. This was a quote they put in there. And this is not my quote. This is a GOTeam quote. Robert McCain said that, not John McCain. Different spelling. Different spelling. Where we're going, just read it real quickly. So before we leave for the semester break, we are going to make sure that everything is set for the budget when we come back in January. Okay. If we want to think about what we're funding, and as we write those strategic plans out, we need to just think about everything, think about the whole picture, think about things outside of instruction. What do we value in the whole child? What do we want at Brandon to be here and to stay throughout some tough budget times? And we talk about positions and we never talk about people. Just something to think about, okay? All right. Principals report. You've seen this slide before. I don't have a ton of updates on this. I do want to say that we are continuing to build out with Zero Eyes. It's a process. I want to get them on our cameras. We're working to get them on a vendor approval list. I just got an email with a vendor approval list, and the vendor approval list is actually hyperlinked. And but this was this was a hard copy that we got at the principals meeting. So I'm still not able to see who we're allowed to purchase from, but I'm really trying to get Zero Eyes on there. I've started from the beginning, and I've got a project manager now for APS, which is great. As a reminder, Zero Eyes is going to be about an $18,000 commitment for 3 years. I will have them write it out if we lose the grant, but the grant is supposed to be each year. The grant's for $45,000. $18,000 is going to get us the AI detection on 25 cameras, perimeters, and right when you walk in the building. And as you are aware, it's consistently monitored by humans. So if any type of weapon is detected, it is monitored by a third party who immediately contacts me and the local law enforcement and helps the triage response. The reason why it's so valuable is because any security expert will tell you that 500 cameras don't mean anything unless somebody's looking at them. So the idea on this one is that we have somebody monitoring our cameras for us. Still working on this. And still working on building out a plan for else what we need. And the vendor list is helpful because now I have contact people for some of the items that we need, including increased lighting and I had interior and exterior lighting and an additional camera for one of our areas on the field is what I'm going to work on. Those are expensive. I only get 45K. Not going to lie, I did try and buy a golf cart because I wanted a security golf cart for our SRO to ride at PC, put security on it, put like Brandon, and then we could ride it around the campus and take it down to carpool and back up, and we're getting all those numbers. But they denied that faster than I could even like get the money back. So we're sitting on the 45K with not a whole lot of options yet until they allow me to begin to spend it. But the idea is 18,000 for Zero Eyes, and then we'll come back to the table and discuss what we need, and I have some ideas on that. All right. Any questions about the security grant? I haven't gotten a ton. SROs are coming. Talked about it again yesterday. 3 elementary schools getting them. They're hiring right now. And in the meantime, we are having officers at our campus for the bulk of the day as they sit outside or on the streets or just doing their patrols and just kind of sitting in our parking lot. But I'm excited for that announcement. $2.2 million investment from my understanding. I guess we're $102.2 million in deficit now. I'm not quite sure how that's being paid, but I'm excited to have that. And I'm really glad that Dr. Johnson prioritized that along with our board.
Jay, just so I can put it in the notes, because I know that's important for a lot of people. Is it one split between the campuses or one per campus for us?
Great question. I would just go ahead and assume it's going to be one for Morris Brandon. Yep. All right. Questions? Keep going. I want to make a great announcement. We have a new assistant principal. You probably didn't know that, and I want to be able to tell you this. Suzanne has been with me for a long time, over 12 years. We worked together in middle school forever. She came here when I came here, but I didn't hire her. I was hired by the old principal, and then she just happened to start when I did. She was an incredible instructional coach. We have 2 APs at the main campus, and we had an instructional coach that was a 211-day instructional coach, basically the most expensive instructional coach you could have. It's year-round, and Miss Nails. But she was doing so much stuff, but she couldn't do discipline because coaches can't do discipline. She can't call parents and work through issues. She couldn't really deal with buses and that kind of stuff. She couldn't do teacher evaluations. And with 110 staff members, everyone needs an evaluation. So we were strategic in posting the position, still looking for the best candidate. We did. We created, I found a way to find $160,000. And when I tell you, I emptied out I did not empty out, but I took a lot of our sub money. I took all of our reserve and pretty much everything else because I had to create that position. We interviewed, we hired. She was by far the best. Then once we moved her into that position, I was able to bank her salary from her 211 coach because we don't need that anymore because we have Miss Chu as readers or leaders. We still have Sam. And it was only a $15,000 difference. That was it. Between her role and AP. And it really has helped us now begin to distribute kind of all the weight that was on Nails when I'm not over there, because she's literally only administrator with 550 kids. And it got me a little nervous sometimes. But now we have 2 administrators. We don't have a coach anymore. We still have Miss Chu as our readers, our leaders coach. We still have Sam DiCarlo. It only cost us about $15,000. And I just wanted to let you all know this because it was a budget shift and we have the same amount of money back in our account now. Everything has been replenished for our sub budget and our operating budget. We got about 85,000 to get us through the year now, like we had before. So it was kind of a no brainer. But I want to let you all know that and that just allow you to ask some questions if you have it. And this was the email I sent to the staff, by the way. That's why I just put it on there. All right, that's all I have, everybody. 420, 21. I know our next meeting is it in December or is it in November? You might know off the top of your head.
We have a November and a December meeting.
Perfect, that's great. That's gonna be good.
The 14th, I believe. No, yeah.
Yep, I have it right here. We have the 14th at 3:30
And then the
we have the 12th. So on the 14th, we're gonna look at our strategic plan. We're gonna rewrite our goals and our strategic priorities, and we're gonna finalize that on the 12th. What you all can do, and I'll probably send an email out before, is to kind of begin to bring some ideas. What do we want our new goals to be, our targets to be, and some of our school strategies? Okay.
Jay, last year we did one of those in person. Was it the November meeting? And I feel like that was beneficial. I feel like that would be great if we could do it again.
We did. You want to do that one in
board.
person? We still have to stream it. But if
Yep.
everybody's okay with that, we could totally meet at main campus, do it in the room, and I can have the kind of like around the room like we did last time. And just allow people to kind of poke holes and write notes and stuff. And then when we come back in that December meeting, I'll have those notes kind of typed up in a better read version of that.
Yeah, I think
So let's do that. That's a good idea.
I think for announcements, Lena, were you able to, there has been a cluster meeting since our last GOTeam. Was there anything cluster related you wanted to update us on your first meeting?
Yeah, I did go there. I mean, the first one was basically we were trying to figure out secretary, they voted on secretaries and all of that and try to figure out the dates for the others. But the new superintendent did speak at first at the beginning of that, and he talked a lot about the budget deficit and just ideas of kind of like initial ideas of how to kind of help with that. I'm sure there's going to be more information coming this year when they start like ironing that out. Let's see. He did talk a lot about the central office at first and how that needs to, there needs to be maybe some talks and cuts coming from downtown first before they think about other cuts. So he was pretty candid. Did talk about, and we know now that the SROs in elementary schools are, we're each getting one of those because he did talk about those at the meeting as well. And then we just broke out into teams into our, met with the North Atlanta cluster, and we just discussed what some of our priorities might be for the year. So they did talk about the collaboration model for gifted, because there was a shift there with the state with the gifted model that's coming up. And we talked about transportation, and there were a couple of other just ideas of like what might be our initiatives that we take on for the year, but it was pretty administrative.
Yeah.
And Ashley, for our next meeting, let's add the gifted piece on there too. Just talk for a second around what that update around collaboration means, like what we did as a school and what the plan kind of is moving forward. And then any type of GOTeam communication, because I'm going to tell people when budget comes around, if gifted is on the table and that's what people want, they're going to be on our calls and they're going to be asking for it. And I know that, and I appreciate gifted learners. And if that's a strategy we need, we just need to be around the same page. So I want to talk about that because that is a staffing position. And we can do that in our strategic plan meeting.
Yep. Good deal. All right. And then in regards to announcements, as I mentioned earlier, I just want to make a strong request for all of the GOTeam. I know we're all busy, but if you can make it, to please come out on Thursday, November 7th for the North Atlanta cluster talk listening session with Dr. Johnson. So I know there's a lot of PTA leadership on the call right now listening. We need to have a strong turnout from our elementary schools, from our middle and our high schools. because this is really his first introduction to North Atlanta. We're the largest cluster, both in terms of enrollment, in land area, in the city, in our enrollment zones. So we should theoretically have the largest, turnout of engaged parents and community. So I just really would like to make a request to please try to be there. I'm going to ask a question, ask questions, be engaged, but please try to make an effort if you can make it to that event. And does anyone else have any other announcements?
There was one more other thing they talked about at the cluster meeting. I'm just looking at my
Mhm.
notes. He did talk about that they're going to create a safety and security committee.
Oh.
That is something that they're working on that's going to be taken up by the board, and that each member will be able to nominate someone. But there was talk about how that's going to go about and who gets nominated. They talked a little bit about that, but hopefully it'd be a mix of some security experts, parents, and school leaders.
I think that's already actually underway. I think they actually may have
Is
had
it?
this meeting already. I think we may even have a parent on there, which is awesome.
That's great.
Yep.
Yeah,
All
this
right,
meeting
Ashley,
was
I'm going to let you close it out. I've got people over my shoulder, as you can possibly see.
Yeah. Yep. So we've reached the end of the agenda. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
all motion.
Thank you, Lena. A second?
I'll second.
Second.
Thank you, guys. All in favor, please raise your hands. All right. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Meeting is officially adjourned at 4:27 p.m.
All right, awesome. Thank you all. I appreciate it. I'm going to shut it off. Ashley, on the November 14th, let's make sure we have public comment.
Yes.
We'll just open up we'll all be in person, but we can hear them through the Zoom.
Okay. Got it. Kim, I'll send you notes on that.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.
Bye.